Well, thank you, Governor. And again, Clark Mercer, the Governor's Chief of Staff. And I want to thank folks from all across the Commonwealth for calling and putting in recommendations. And there's a lot of sports out there, and every day when you think you kind of have everything figured out, someone calls with a new situation you haven't thought of. So I wanted to go through our overarching guidelines for youth sports in Phase 2. And I will start by saying it's applying common sense, incidental versus accidental contact, and shared equipment. That's really what we need to be thinking about when our kids are back out playing sports. Incidental contact is obviously accidental contact, temporary contact that you don't plan on in a sport. And we understand you can't play sports, a lot of them, without having incidental contact. Intentional contact, there's some sports you just can't play without intentionally coming across someone else and having sustained contact. So that's kind of a guiding post for what we're going to talk about. Also, shared equipment. We need to minimize and prohibit the use of shared equipment in Phase 2. But we will have our kids out playing sports, and I'll give a couple examples of incidental contact versus intentional. Karate classes. Can my child go back to having indoor karate classes? Yes. Can your child spar with another child and have intentional contact in those classes? No. We've had folks that run ice skating arenas. Can ice skating start again? Yes. Can we have ice dancing in the ice skating arenas? No. Baseball. When I was growing up, we all shared a helmet, and we all shared baseball bats. That's not common protocol now. You have your own bat, you have your own helmet. There's not shared equipment in baseball. Certainly there is some incidental contact that we recognize. Football, high school football, folks should be training right now, getting ready. I don't know what will happen with the high school season down the road, but certainly quarterbacks can be thrown to receivers. Receivers are wearing gloves. That's kind of common sense. We're not doing tackle football in the middle of the summer anyway. There's certainly some weight training, not using shared equipment, some drills that linemen can do that will accommodate the Phase 2 guidelines. Soccer, I coached high school soccer for 6 years. There's ways to train and structure your practices without having intentional contact. With shared equipment with soccer, it's a very easy to structure a practice to avoid, for example, having throw-ins, right? You can restart from the ground. Obviously, in competitive soccer, once we get going with that, you can't do that. But certainly for most of the training that we do across the Commonwealth, you don't have to have everyone picking up the ball and throwing it in. So that's kind of applying some of the common sense guidelines. In terms of capacity on our fields, indoor and outdoor, indoor is going to be less capacity. It's 30% for an indoor field or 50 people, whichever is the lesser amount, and that's per field. So some of our sports complexes that are large and have a baseball diamond, a volleyball court, and a soccer field, it's per, each room should have its own capacity limit, and you'll know how to structure that. Outdoors, it's 50% capacity or 50 people, whichever is less for youth sports. And this is, I think, I was on the phone a couple days ago with a group of folks that coach baseball around the Commonwealth. For youth sports, we need our parents to be able to come, drop our kids off and watch, and for the children that they're overseeing. So it's there's no limit or capacity for the youth sports for spectators, given that their parents are guardians, either watching their children or taking care of their children at the game. And kind of common sense again, baseball, we've got the diamond, 2 dugouts, teams separated, and fans on either side down the first and third base line watching from the outfield, social distancing. Soccer, lacrosse, those sorts of things, you have fans, typically 2 teams on either sideline, again, social distancing, leaving some space in between spectators with a high likelihood, at least in my household, that my son or daughter comes running over for more orange slices or to take a timeout in the middle of the game and is hot and sweaty and perspiring. And obviously the 10 feet of distance that we're trying to maintain in fitness classes, our gyms, athletics recognizes that when you are exercising, those air particles move a little bit quicker and there's more likelihood of spread. So that's the reason for 10 feet. But Phase 2, these are phases. They're not permanent. We will have a Phase 3 in Virginia that the governor will articulate the guidelines for, but you will be able to get your sons and daughters out practicing and playing this Friday. Let's just do it in a smart way. Thank you.
In closing, I want to remind Virginians that today at 5 p.m. Is the last day to request an absentee ballot to vote in the June 23rd congressional primaries. Elections matter, and I'd encourage voters to vote absentee by mail to the extent possible. Now we'll hear a health update from Dr.